Welcome back to the Big Data channel, where we will briefly discuss the breaking news in the world. Before continuing to the news topic, don't forget to subscribe, like and press the bell so you don't miss the next breaking news. Sydney protest anti-lockdown protests across Australia as COVID cases. Officers issued more than 90 infringement notices to people at the demonstration for breaching public health orders. More arrests are also likely. What we saw today was 3,500 very selfish boofheads, people that thought the law didn't apply to them, Mr. Elliott said. Earlier, central Sydney was shut down for several hours as thousands of protesters breached COVID-19 restrictions to march, sparking brawls and several arrests. People in Greater Sydney and its surrounds have been living in lockdown for exactly 4 weeks, as an outbreak of the Delta coronavirus variant continues to spread. 22 detectives will be involved in strike force seasoned and will work until, whenever it concludes, to identify protesters. Members of the public have already started to send police social media footage from the event, some of which identifies individuals committing offenses. Police will also forensically investigate CCTV feeds. Mr. Elliott has warned protesters, particularly the ringleaders, to expect a call from police from tonight. He also urged them to get tested for COVID-19. There is no doubt in my mind that at least one individual there today had COVID. It is statistically impossible for us not to consider that. I'm appealing to all 3,500 people to get tested tomorrow, if not for themselves, for the sake of their family and friends. Chaotic scenes on Sydney streets. Protesters shouted, "Freedom," as they marched towards the CBD through the suburb of Haymarket, which had just moments earlier been declared a virus hotspot by NSW Health's Jeremy McAnulty at a press conference. Smaller demonstrations were also held in Melbourne, where flares were set off outside Parliament House, and in Brisbane, where hundreds gathered in the city's Botanic Gardens. There were chaotic scenes on Sydney's Broadway, one of the main arteries through the city's inner west, with thousands of people blocking traffic to take part in the unauthorized event. By the time the crowd reached George Street, a brawl broke out. Some protesters brought their children, while few people were wearing face masks at the demonstration, which started at Victoria Park in Camperdown. Protesters carried signs saying, "Wake up Australia," and waved Australian flags. Some brought megaphones and chanted, "We've got rights," in police officers' faces, and at one stage the crowd chanted, "New South Wales," repeatedly. As protesters made their way back to Victoria Park, where the rally had started, scuffles broke out with police and spilled out onto busy roads where motorists were forced to wait. At the park, police wearing masks stood shoulder to shoulder, setting up a containment line in a tense standoff with some protesters who had refused to leave the park. A number of protesters, some holding mobile phones, confronted police before they were corralled. Moving on. Protesters slowly made their way out of the park. 6 people will be charged following the Melbourne protest, with dozens more people issued fines. Victoria Police said 74 protesters were processed, with 67 of those to be issued with penalty notices for failing to comply with the lockdown's 5-kilometer radius rule. 6 penalties were issued for not wearing a face mask, while a smaller number of penalties were issued for other alleged offenses. 4 people were charged and bailed for offenses such as assaulting an emergency worker and drug possession. A glimpse of today's breaking news. Wait for our next breaking news. Thank you for watching this news.